Between 4.7 and 4.8, I had a video where we took the standard form of a quadratic, that's this right here, and we completed the square on that, and we got to this formula. Now, you will not have to do that on a test or quiz, but it's important. The reason why I showed you it is it's important for you to see where this formula comes from and why it is the way it is. A lot of people will look at this formula and just use it as a formula that accomplishes a task and have no understanding of why it is the way it is or where it comes from. So it's important that you guys see where this comes from. So basically what this formula does is it will complete the square for us so that when we're trying to solve a quadratic, we don't have to go through and complete the square every single time. It saves us a lot of time if we can just throw numbers into this formula and have it spit out the answer. So remember what we're doing when we're using this formula. What we're doing is we're finding the x-intercepts of a parabola. So when we have a parabola, it's going to cross the x-axis at two different places, and those two places are where the y value is 0. So if we look along at any point on this x-axis, the y value of every point on there is 0. So if we're trying to find these x-intercepts, what we're going to do is we're going to plug in 0 for y, and then solve this equation. So again, if this were 4.7, we would now have to complete the square. But since we have this formula that completes the square for us, we don't actually have to go through and do that. It's important to remember, though, what a, b, and c here are for the formula. So a is the number in front of x squared, b is the number in front of x, and then c is the number that doesn't have any variables on it. So we're going to take those values of a, b, and c, throw them into the formula, and it will spit out the answer for us. So x is equal to negative b, or it might help to think of this as the opposite of b. Might help because if you think about b here, it's already negative, and so we have a negative 8. Might help to think of that again as the opposite of negative 8. The opposite of negative 8 is positive 8. Then plus or minus the square root of, again, we have negative 8 squared. A lot of students I see putting negative 64 there, but remember that a negative times a negative is positive, so negative 8 squared is positive 64. Minus 4 times a, which is 2, times c, which is 6, all over 2 times a, which is 2. Simplify this a bit further, and we're going to get, so that's 64 minus, then 4 times 2 times 6 is 48. All over 2 times 2 is 4. And now we get x equals 8 plus or minus square root of then 64 minus 48 is 16 over 4. Then we can take the square root of 16, we get 4. And now we've got the two answers right there. So let's unpack these. We've got two separate equations here that we really have packed into one here. So one of them is 8 plus 4 over 4, and one of them is 8 minus 4 over 4. So 8 plus 4 is 12, divided by 4 gives us 3. 8 minus 4 is 4, divided by 4 gives us 1. So these are the two x-intercepts. These are the two places where the graph will cross the x-axis. Now another way that might help to think of this is that these are really coordinate points. So we plugged in 0 for y and then got 3 for x. And here we plugged in 0 for y and then we got 1 for x. So we've got two coordinate points there.